Welcome to Healing Rain. I'm Sue Detweiler, your host, and this show is for you if you are for healing, freedom, and wholeness. Well, today on Healing Rain, I have my friend Dani Williamson, and I'm so proud of her. She wrote this book, Wild and Well. She is a family nurse practitioner and founder of Family Integrative Medicine in Nashville, Tennessee. And for me personally, she has been one of my first people on my healing team that really helped me have a breakthrough in my health. Well, today on Healing Rain, I get to have my friend Dani Williamson on. Hi, Dani.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is a long time coming, isn't it, Sue?
Well, I love this book. Is this not so beautiful, wild
Thank you.
and well? Oh, I tell you, incredible. Your photographer's amazing.
Thank you.
And what I remember, and I'm sure you remember this too, I remember sitting on my back porch in Nashville, Tennessee. And before I moved to Texas, and we were talking about how you needed to write a book on healing, and so did
Yes,
I.
yes, yes.
And it seemed like a long way away. And then we ended up sitting together at a Michael Hyatt conference.
Yes,
And God had just been really prompting you to write this book. Remember that? We got to
oh,
spend time together in Nashville.
I remember. I
And then
remember.
this is amazing, Dani. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. That was the hardest thing that I've ever done professionally. You
Are
know,
you
I
serious?
I have a lot of words. I was voted most talkative 1984 Marshall County High School in Kentucky for a reason, right? I mean, most talkative every year, spanked every year when we spanked kids, first through 12th grade for just never shutting up. So I have a lot of words, but I'm not a writer. I'm a nurse practitioner.
Oh,
I'm creative, but
yes,
I'm
you
not a
are a
writer.
nurse. I'm telling you, you did a great job of writing.
Thank you.
I'm
Well,
serious.
I had help with that. I mean, I wrote the book, but I authored the book. I recorded the book. Jen put it to, did all the things
Oh,
she
good.
do
Well,
to
she
get it
did a
right.
great
And,
job.
and it was hard, but it has been an incredible journey of healing and hope and healing and reading patients' reviews. Well, not patients' reviews, just readers' reviews on how the book gave them hope that they did. It's really difficult, and we'll talk about this, when you are so sick and you don't feel well and you believe you're broken, but we're not broken. We weren't born broken. We've never been broken, and these things happen sometimes slowly through the decades or suddenly, and we just can't see our way out of it. And so it's a book on hope. It's a book on hope and reversing whatever it is we've turned on, getting your body back to that God given health that you were most likely born with. Most of us, Sue,
Amen.
weren't born sick. We
I
turn
know.
on the anxiety and the depression and the bipolar and migraine headaches and lupus, like me, and irritable bowel syndrome and fatigue and depression. We turn it on, and I'm living proof. What you turn on, you can turn off by beginning to control what's at the end of your fork, and then other things that we'll talk about. So
Well,
it's
and I'm so thrilled too because really you were a person that I came to that I had gone doctor to doctor to doctor knowing that something was wrong with me. I'd been to Brazil and my GI tract had been contaminated.
yes.
And you were the first person to be able to find some of this, you and Dr. Kolb. And
Mhm.
you were one of the original healing team members on my personal team.
I will
And
never forget sitting at a dinner, a pharmaceutical dinner at that time, back when I was a regular nurse practitioner, just straight up family, getting a text message from Elizabeth. There's someone you've got to see.
yes,
She's very
Elizabeth
sick,
Reed.
and we weren't even taking new patients, I think, then or something. And I was like, what? And it was you. It was you. I was at a dinner and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Yeah, yes, for you, I'll do anything, Elizabeth, whatever. And it was you. And look,
I
and
know.
it
It
was
was a
complicated.
divine appointment, and you and Elizabeth, both of you guys. Elizabeth's like a bulldog. She's like a prophetic bulldog.
Yeah, she is. She is. And again, you're proof, I'm proof. You don't have to live sick and beat down. I mean, and we may never get it reversed 150%, but we can get you so far back under the radar to start living that life you were designed to live. It's fascinating, and I do it every day, and it is so heartwarming to watch people come in and say, I had no idea I could have this much energy. Or I personally feel better at 56 than I ever did at 36. Ever,
Mhm.
ever.
Well, I mean, I already on the phone told you my good news. I
Yes.
went to Brazil a second time, the place where it all had started, and my thyroid was healed, and I am no longer on thyroid medication, which Hashimoto's, that autoimmune thing, was
You bet.
so hard. I'll never forget sitting in your office or Dr. Kolb's office and you getting the reports back that my antibodies were supposed to be under 60 and they were like 8,000 or more. It was like those
Yeah,
antibodies were attacking my thyroid.
they sure were.
But God is a healer.
You bet he is. We're
So,
proof of it, aren't we?
yes, we are. So, where did your healing journey start? Because you really do a good job of talking about that in this
Okay.
book.
So the condensed version is I grew up in complete chaos in my home. Complete
Mhm.
chaos. I had a grandfather that had died by suicide, which I talk about in the book. My mother attempted multiple times. I had a stepfather that was a child molester. I had one that almost killed me. The third husband almost
Wow.
killed me my senior year in high school. I had
Wow.
so much adverse childhood trauma in my life before the age of 18. I had my first colonoscopy at 20. I had chronic diarrhea my whole senior year in high school. Had my first colonoscopy, first of four at age 18. And then 15 years later, I'm in a really tough marriage and I was suicidal as well. And I was going to die by suicide one morning. I remember it very well, and how I was going to drive off the foot of Broadway into the Ohio River in Paducah, Kentucky, and my kids walked in the room and saved me. And they never knew that. They never knew that. I was I and I was in a bad marriage. So, and I ended up getting out of that, but not before I was diagnosed with lupus and
Wow.
fibro and chronic itching. Chronic itching. I itched for years and nobody could figure it out. Like nobody could figure it out. 44 years old. I went to nurse practitioner school. I lost everything, got divorced, went to nurse practitioner school. I was on food stamps for 5 years. I was on a medical card. My kids and I left Kentucky to move to Nashville. Didn't know a soul. I drove a 28-foot U-Haul to Nashville with two kids, a hermit crab, no, two hermit crabs, two children, a cat and a dog. That's right. And oh my Lord, I started over with nothing. Only student at Vanderbilt in my class on food stamps. Not only was I on food stamps, I was the oldest one in my class. Got out of school at 44, working for Dr. Cow. He was the
Who's
first doctor,
brilliant? Who's brilliant?
24 years of seeing doctors. And I had diagnosis after diagnosis. And I wasn't on that many medicines because nothing ever really worked right. And I just in the back of my head thought, I don't like all this. 10 doctors, 10 specialists, 24 years before a doctor ever leaned into me and said, Dani, what are you eating? Don't you know your diet controls your symptoms? Do you take digestive enzymes and probiotics? And do you know your food sensitivities? It turned the entire trajectory around on my life, of my life and my children, hopefully my grandchildren. And now, thousands of patients later, it has changed the entire trajectory of their life by controlling what you're eating, learning what you're eating that's hurting you, taking a few good supplements, eating well, sleeping well, moving well, poop well, de-stressing well, and cultivating community well. It changed my entire world. It's taken me 13, 13 years to reverse what I learned at school, how to treat patients. We were taught to treat symptoms. You've got heartburn, you need Nexium. Clearly, you have a Nexium deficiency. It has nothing to do with Nexium, right? You have a migraine headache, then you need, migraine medicine, Imitrex or ibuprofen. That's not true. That's not ibuprofen deficiency. So we learned, I was taught by Dr. Cal to treat root causes. And when you learn what the root cause is, we end up reversing decades of chronic lifestyle disease. When you address childhood trauma, no one in 44 years, in fact, no one ever asked me. I figured this out on my own. No one ever asked me about my childhood. Dani, what happened to you in childhood? We know that what happens to you before the age of 18 sets you up for a much higher risk of suicide and heart disease and diabetes and drug abuse and alcoholism. I mean, the list goes on, pulmonary embolisms, prostate cancer, the whole thing. And no one ever addressed that. And once I learned about adverse childhood experiences, I really started digging in deep and doing the hard work emotionally. You can get everything right, diet wise, right? Exercising, sleeping. But if you haven't addressed the trauma in your life, we can only get you so far. And when I started doing the work and forgiving my mother.
Yes. I remember.
Oh, yes. And now guess what? Had I not done that work 7, 8, 9 years ago, started on it then as an old lady, basically. Now my mom has Alzheimer's. I'm her only caregiver because I'm an only child. My mom's an only child. I would never be able to take care of her the way I do now. And I drive back and forth to Kentucky. Well, I'm leaving right now as soon as we finish this. I would never be able to do that with an open heart. I mean, we've come full circle, and it's interesting that Alzheimer's has helped that happen.
Oh, it is interesting. I remember throwing you a birthday party at my home,
Sue.
and your mama was there.
I
Remember?
forgot this.
Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh. And remember what happened? She made it about her.
Yes, I do remember. I do. God's a healer.
Forgot about that. I so forgot about that. That was a birthday party that Sue threw for me. Sue threw this party for me, and it was the most, I've never had anybody as an adult. I had a surprise party when I was 40, but this incredible party where everyone went around and shared how they knew Dani or what Dani meant to you. And it was just overwhelming. I remember what everybody said.
It was beautiful.
And then my mom. And it was, and it was about her, and it turned into about her. And there's a lot of mother-daughter relationships like that out there. And I've learned a lot. And my friend who brought her down that day to that, she said, "Oh, Dani, I'm so sorry." And my other friend who grew up with a mom very similar to mine, we have mama issues. I've worked through mine though. She said, "Oh my gosh, this is my mom made over, and she's not going to let you have your party." But I had totally forgotten about this. Oh my word. But here's the thing. Now I've forgotten about it. How beautiful is that?
Yeah,
because in the past,
it is.
I would have still drugged that up and remember that time you just really, me at the party that Sue was throwing. So we have to work through the trauma. And anybody that's listening to this, that's a huge aha moment for many of you. And it's very triggering when you start to look at adverse childhood experiences. The entire first part of this book is on You Are Not Your Past. And the Adverse Childhood Experience Questionnaire, if you've never heard of that, it's from the CDC and Kaiser Permanente in California.
And it's in the book.
It is in the book. And so you can take the questionnaire. It's not perfect. It was designed in the 90s. And there's a long story on how it came about. But the bottom line is what they discovered is that 60 to 70% of everyone, 17,000 people who took this, were in this study, had at least one adverse childhood experience. And if you had one, you had a 50% chance of having a second one. The higher the score, the shorter your lifespan. Anything above 4, your lifespan is shortened by 20 years. Mine's a 6, and there's 6 out of 10. Now, this questionnaire addresses physical abuse, emotional abuse, abandonment, being hungry, sexual abuse, not just physical being bit up, sexual abuse. It's not perfect. It was given to white, middle to upper class, college educated participants in Southern California and San Diego. So it's not, so just think of this. Those people, this is a white Caucasian group. It didn't include brown and black, Asians, any of that. So that's been the major, criticism of the adverse childhood experience questionnaire. So when you expand that, it's probably even more than what they believe. And it's huge. And it is triggering, huge. But it is a piece of the puzzle, because what the ACE questionnaire is all about is how does a baby, that new grandbaby of yours, how does that new grandbaby of yours go from being a great, happy baby to being a homeless man on the street when they're in their 30s and 40s? That's what it's about. And it changed my practice. It changed my practice. All my patients now get the question.
And I need to say this because listeners tuning in, they don't realize what an incredible practice you've built. I remember praying, before it began, and you have a thriving practice by the grace of God. And part of it is God took everything about your story and all the people that have had health issues that are not getting fixed have found you and gotten freedom and healing in just an incredible way. I mean, it's just amazing to me how many people you have helped and how influential you have become in particular the holistic health community.
Thank you. I've worked really hard. I have prayed and prayed and prayed that I would be able to help 3 million men and women. I mean, more.
Is that your goal? Oh, okay.
Well, I actually said 10 million originally. I'll settle for anything. 1 is great. You change a person's life, right? That's worth it then, right there. Yeah. But this book is common sense medicine. That's why it says common sense practical medicine that anyone can do. A kid from Gilbertsville, Kentucky, who doesn't have has a high school education, to someone at Harvard who lives in Cambridge, right? And doesn't feel well. The book is for everyone to realize that God gave us these divinely perfect bodies. Some people are born sick, and I know that. Some people are born sick, but the majority of the people are not. We turn on chronic lifestyle disease. Hence, that's why it's called lifestyle disease. And that's what the book is about, my 6 steps to healing. And we can
and here's the reality, because you list the insidious 7. And
right.
Here's what I know, because I walk on a very narrow path, much more narrow than anybody on my family. And I follow these, but very rarely, even though you say everyone can heal, most people do not want to go down a pathway as narrow of trying to get back to food that is healthy.
That's right. Sue, you're so right. You nailed the nail on the head that I probably wasn't going to say. That's right. But when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, you will make the change. When the pain of the same outweighs the pain of the change, man, you'll make a difference. And I'm going to read you something real fast before we get in these 7 things, because you just reminded me. I've seen this one patient for years. She's in her 60s. She's brilliant. Her husband just died of Alzheimer's this a couple months ago. She left, sold everything, is in an RV, and is in Bible college down in Texas. Well, she's in Texas.
Oh,
I don't
she's
know
in
where.
Texas.
So she's down there. She's living in an RV, drove her RV all the way down. So this woman is an electrical engineer. She's very detailed. I've done food sensitivity testing on her. I've done everything. Cut out all these foods I've asked them to do. They've never done one thing I've asked them to do all these years, yet they've stayed patients of mine. I don't know why. Maybe they just like get paid up every 6 months when they come in. But she sent me a message last Tuesday, July 12th. I just started your book and I love it. I'm so excited about letting my body heal. Thank you, my friend. And I just sent back a heart button. Thursday, 6 days ago, she said, 2 goals for the end of the year, to be able to kneel. I've not done that since 1983, and be pain-free. 1 week without the bad 7. I can kneel. No pain in my knees at all. Now I'm working on squatting. Thank you, my friend, for empowering me. She said, Bible college is teaching me to deal with the stress issues in community. And then it goes on and on and on. I said, girl, this is the best text message I've ever received. When you're ready, you'll do it. It took her husband dying of Alzheimer's, right? Which we know you're not born with Alzheimer's. And I tried to tell them that years ago. He was not born with Alzheimer's disease. He turned it on. My mom wasn't born with Alzheimer's. You don't have to have Alzheimer's. You can turn this off before it happens. It's too late for him, but it's not too late for her. And 1 week without eating gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, and peanuts, she can kneel. And hasn't knelt since I was a junior in high school, and I'm 56. Isn't that something?
Oh, it's amazing.
God designed our body to reverse quickly, but you've got to have the
have to
do it and say, I can do anything. I'm a woman. I'm a man. I am a child of the Most High King, for crying out loud. I can cut out processed, packaged, bagged, canned, fake, man-made food for 21 days, 7 days. We are so emotionally connected to food, Sue. You know that. And we eat the same food over and over. But God made hundreds of foods for us. You cut out 7 foods, the top 7. Everyone says, what am I going to eat, Dani?
Yeah.
That's everything I eat. Well, you're going to eat all the nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, fish, chicken, lamb, turkey, pork you can stand. God made hundreds of foods for us to eat, and we only eat about 12 to 15. That's what the research shows.
Yeah, and instead we eat the false processed foods. Yesterday morning my daughter Hannah was exhausted because my newest grandson, Jonathan Allen, was screaming and did not sleep. And I was so happy that when she took the baby to the doctor, they told her it's most likely milk, and she's nursing Jonathan. So she's going off of dairy. Good. And I was so happy to be able to, I'm going to hand this book over, and it was something that I did with my children because they had the same reaction to any type of milk. So, I mean, as a nursing mom, I had gone off it before. But just realizing there's so many things about this insidious 7.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Very few people want to walk this narrow path. But I personally have found great freedom with the path.
You bet. And we outline in here how to do that, how to cut it out. Because if you look at your refrigerator and your freezer and your pantry, and it's got boxes, bags, cans, tubes, rolls, fake food in it. If your food is going to, if what you're eating is still going to be okay 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months from now, then that's not food. That's Franken food. That is not real food. So, right?
Yes.
So you've got to eat fresh, in season, one ingredient food. I built my entire practice and social media following off of one ingredient food. One ingredient. Well, what's that? It's a piece of salmon, for crying out loud. There's no gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, or peanuts in a salmon or a Brussels sprout or a broccoli or a green bean. Nothing. So we have to get back to cooking. Cooking is self-care. Our children don't know how to cook. They have no idea, what to do
Mine
with a
do,
Brussels
praise
sprout.
God.
You bet.
They
You
had
bet.
to learn. That was part of their education. And they needed to prepare meals. By the time Angela was, I think she was 10 years old, we had her make a roast and people
Good.
came over and they ate it and they complimented her and that's all it took. She was cooking after that.
Isn't
You
that
know.
something?
I know, but we've got to
Yes.
get back to teaching our children how to cook.
If you don't think the food industry is about addiction, you are sadly mistaken. Anything that if you Chick-fil-A right now, and I'm not picking on Chick-fil-A, guaranteed it's 4:30 in the afternoon in Franklin, Tennessee. I guarantee you there's a line around Chick-fil-A at 4:30 here in Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, New York City, Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, California. If you don't think that's about addiction, you're wrong. You've never driven up to a Chick-fil-A and just pulled straight to the window and nobody's there. Cracker Barrel, same reason. There's a line out the door to eat biscuits right now. McDonald's, every single bit of that food was created in a laboratory, in a lab. Do you know it took 4 years to create the grilled chicken at Chick-fil-A? 4 years to get that formula together. That's a formula. That's not a recipe. That is a fake lab experiment. And your kids and your grandkids and you are the lab rats. And if you don't think it's about addiction, how many people drive through Chick-fil-A, McDonald's 3, 4, 5 times a week? You've got to think about it. It's
And the
fake food.
reality is the more that you eat, the more that you crave.
You bet you do, because
You know?
that's especially gluten, dairy,
Yeah.
sugar. But gluten works on the morphine receptors in the brain. The morphine receptors. The more you eat, the more you want. That's why you get that feeling when you eat gluten, right? And then, of course, you crash out and your joints hurt and your stomach hurts and all of that. But that's why you can eat 3 biscuits before you ever knew what happened. It's addictive.
Yeah, and the gluten-free replacements they're no
Oh,
better either.
Sue, they're fake products.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
like
food.
corn. Yeah, I know.
Patients will go gluten-free, and I tell them at the first visit, now I want you eating gluten-free food, not gluten-free products, right? Which are crackers, cakes, cookies, muffins, pancakes. They'll come in 10 pounds heavier in 5 weeks when I follow up with them, right? And I'm like, what in the world did you do? You should have been losing weight. And they're like, well, I found these cookies and these crackers and they're gluten-free, Dani. Yeah, but they're fake food. There's a list a mile long on the back of it, and guaranteed they're made with grains, a lot of them. So the what you're eating, what's at the end of your fork, will heal you or kill you. And Daniel knew this in the Bible
He
2,000
sure
years ago.
did.
What in the world? I am Danielle. That is Daniel. Daniel knew it long before me. He said, we're not eating that. We are not eating the food of the king's palace. Well, guess who came out the strongest warriors in 10 days? Daniel and his warriors. Now, they didn't eat meat. They gave up meat. They gave up dairy. They didn't eat cheese, cottage cheese, yogurt, ice cream, sour cream, butter, cream cheese, anything that came from the cow. They said, absolutely not. And they ate pulse for 10 days, right? Vegetables and nuts and seeds, I suppose, and fruits, maybe. I don't know exactly. But he knew then. Why aren't we teaching this in the church? Why aren't we standing in the pulpit saying, your body is a temple? We're not giving these kids goldfish anymore that have food coloring in it and toxic wheat in it and glyphosate. We're not feeding
Now
these
you're going
kids
after kids ministry.
Krispy Kreme anymore. Well, I'm not going after it. It's wrong. We're trying to get them to heaven.
I mean, it's a real epidemic, and it's something where when you lose the nutritional value of food or what it used to be or the minerals that it used to have. And Dani, what I love about your book, and I'm going to hold it up one more time, is I love your choice of language.
Thank you.
And I love that there's enough confrontation and fun in the conversation. And I also like that you're unveiling just really, I think, a demonic strategy to shorten our lives.
Oh, now don't get me on that because we could be here all night long. So I do believe that. And
Mhm.
again, it's one of those, what I said, if you don't think it's about addiction, or you're sadly mistaken. We need to pull our head out of whatever we've got it up into and
Mhm.
open your eyes wide.
Yeah,
Eyes wide open.
and it, and the reality is we're just talking about simplicity.
You bet.
We're just talking about simplicity and health
Yes.
and
Yes.
eating whole foods and also not overeating. I think there's something to the intermittent fasting, that you don't have to eat all day long, all night long. There's a good thing to stop and fast,
And
to
that's what
let
breakfast means, right?
I
Break the
know.
fast.
I know, but people do not have that concept, and I didn't. I'm not pointing a finger. Um I think uh I think God's so good, and he will show us in this world and in this time how to
Absolutely.
walk in divine health. And he does miracles all the time, like the miracle of healing my thyroid. But he
That's right.
also gives us wisdom of how to walk in divine health and how to extend your life, how to be vigorous and filled with vitality. And I think that's something that everybody wants.